Good morning, everybody. It's Mike with SmartOptionTrading.com. It is Sunday, the 15th of June. This is my week ahead video. First of all, to all the dads out there, happy Father's Day. Enjoy your day. Have fun. I'm not doing charts today. I'm spending time with my daughter and my dad, as we all are. So I'm going to put this out there for free to give you my thoughts as we go into this week. And there's a lot of uncertainty was going into this week. So let's start off with the economic before we get into the political and geopolitical events that are going on. Monday's a pretty quiet day. Tuesday, we have retail sales in the morning. Wednesday, we have no real data, but we have the Fed decision and the press conference. And this is going to be a big one. Nobody's expecting a rate cut. That would be a shock. But it's the messaging going forward that the market's going to be looking at. And I believe we get a dot plot this time as well. So, big one there. Again, this is a weird week. The markets are closed on Thursday for Juneteenth. And then we are open on Friday for options expiration for the month of June. This is going to be a very messy week. A lot of people will be taking Friday off, right? So for a lot of people, they're going to make this a 4-day weekend. I will be here, and we'll see from there. But we have all that going on. Meanwhile, when we talk about earnings, as long as we're here real quick, there's not much going on here. There's really nothing to see. All right, so let's just kick it off and start off at the ES. Friday, the news Israel attacked Iran. Iran has attacked back, and they have been trading blows back and forth. At this time, as of right now, Israel has complete control of Iran's airspace, meaning they are flying and doing what they want at will with no problems. And that is not a good situation to be in if you're another country. It makes your options very limited. Iran will continue to send missiles, salvos back towards Israel, probably having more and more problems doing so as their launchers or whenever they launch, they're prone to attack. This is really not a good situation, but it's not as bad as it could have been. The market's taking it in stride. Now, Israel did hit some of Iran's oil infrastructure and natural gas infrastructure. They haven't targeted the island yet where the terminal is, but they did hit some big storage areas right in the area of Tehran and some refineries in retaliation for them targeting civilians. That's what the market's going to worry about the most. And that's why we're going here. The market's going to worry about Iranian oil coming off the market. It's going to worry about Iran's threat to close the Strait of Hormuz, which is not hard to do as it's only 12 miles wide. There have been sporadic attacks on some U.S. interests in Iraq, but nothing special and nothing that's going to get us screaming into it so far. And at this point, it remains isolated between the two countries, which neither one of them can really win, right? Even without a land invasion, right? You can't really win by just launching missiles and strikes from the air. And we'll see how long this is going to go on for. At this point, if you're Israel, you're going to make sure you take out everything you can because you're going to be dealing with a lot of very angry and upset country that is going to try everything to come back after you. All right, so we closed the week on Friday, and we can see here on the ES, we came down, we held a 21 day. It is important to note here as we go into this today that right now futures are trading down on the Dow about 152 points, which is not bad. Now, these are pre-market futures. They're not 1%, but they're pretty good. Remember, we open at 6 o'clock tonight. 6 p.m. we open, then 8 o'clock is when the markets, pre-market trading opens for stocks, if you can. From a sentiment perspective, we had some changes as we came into this week. We're going to start off here with market breadth. We turned down here on the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange were now turned down, right? Breadth had been leading up. We will quickly move to turn down. Your advanced decline lines also came down, the small caps getting hit the hardest. Oscillators, we went from positive side of neutral all the way down here to negative 93 on the NASDAQ and negative 44 in the New York Stock Exchange. Let's put us on the negative side of neutral. When we want a good signal, we're looking to get down these 300 levels, right? Big levels like that. So we're down, but not that much. Highs versus lows on the S&P 500, plus 39 versus negative 28. Believe it or not, we're still positive there. On the tech-heavy NASDAQ, which got hit harder, a little bit of a different story. Plus 78 versus negative 129, but that is typical. They're the first to go and usually much bigger. To put the call, neutral. And market breadth, again, we talked about rolled over. So, we got this covered here. All right. The big thing to watch tonight when the futures open at 6 is going to be crude. Crude on Friday had this huge spike out of the gate and then came right back, came down and closed pretty much about half of what it had. So, here's the initial news and we ramped and this is the panic and we came down. If Iranian oil comes off the market or the Strait of Hormuz gets closed, that is going to cause a spike in oil. I'm not saying this is going to happen. You're going to hear people out there saying oil can go to 150, 200. Take a deep breath. Oil will spike. It might head up towards 100. That would be an inflationary thing, by the way, and the Fed's going to need to be aware of this. But here you go. 5-year high is 130. So when you hear people saying 150, 200, you know, take it with a very deep, breath, right? These people are trying to cause panic. 90 area and 100 are very difficult areas to get to. In fact, when you look at oil maximum, right, you can see we very rarely get up into these levels. Here, all the way back here, we had some issues, right? But you see, we don't tend to get up into these areas very often. All right, so we'll see how we trade. We'll see what happens here. But oil to me is the big area to watch. Next area to watch is going to be the VIX. How's the VIX reacting? Friday, we closed up, but we closed over 20. So when we're over 20 right now, that means there's risk in the market and it's unhappy. If it spikes, where do we spike to? I'm not expecting a spike up to the 60 area. We may not see, but does it get up to the 20, this 25 area? Keep an eye on that. What else out there, guys? Let's go back and we talked about oil. Let's talk gold. Gold has been the safe haven. Wouldn't be surprised if gold makes a new all-time high this week. Bonds have not been the safe haven. They had been in the past. You can see they came in on Friday. The market right now is worried about bonds and they just don't want them. So bonds may not be a place to hide. If bonds continue to weak, rates will be higher. Bitcoin is no longer a safe haven type thing. It held in on Friday, but it tends to move with the markets at this point because there's so much institutional ownership of it now with these ETFs. All right, so let's jump into it. Let's talk on the S&P 500. And what I'm watching for this week is if we sell. If we get a sell-off, where do we go? So let's take a look at the last couple months of action because this is what's important. We had that big sell-off. We got into a bear market and, we're already out of it, right? So we get a bear market. We've already come out of it. We started a new bull market and when we got above 577. And, this is just right now a pullback in a bear market and a bull market where we haven't hit an all-time high yet. We didn't retake it. So do we pull back? Do we hold the 21 day? The 21 day has been strong support ever since we got above it, right? You can see here, rejected here, rejected, 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 above it, support, support. That's your first spot to watch. So zoom in a little bit. We watch the 21 day here around this 591 area. If not, then we start watching down towards this 5% pullback, 582. Why? Because it was resistance and support. You can see how we held it. And then you watch towards the 200 day. And then eventually, if you get it to 50 day and note that there's a gap sitting there at 577.04 that comes down, it's a pretty large gap. So the market decides to get that. And that would be okay. If we held, as long as we held here, we'd be fine. That would be a place to be looking to buy into this. If the market decides, this is not a big deal, push up, we take out 600, you look for 605, 610, then your all-time high of 613. Again, we'll see what we're going to get this week and how the market wants to trade. All right, so let's go into it here. I'm going to go back up top. No, we went over that. Let's go to the Qs. The Qs have been the leader. Tech has retaken the lead. So we'll see. Same thing. Does it hold the 21 day? If we cannot, does it hold into here? There is a gap sitting here underneath this. We'll see if we can get pick that up here as well. The 200 to 100 day there together in that gap, right at the edge of that gap. That'd be another big area to watch right around this 500 area. The SMHs have been strong. All right, nice push down here to 8 days, stronger than the markets. They've been coming back for it. We'll keep an eye on it. If not, we'll watch the 21 day on this one. Again, pushing up. Let's go into some individual names in there. Let's start off with NVIDIA. NVIDIA was looking ready to break out on Thursday with the news, held the 8 day. I'm still long some calls. We'll see how that plays out. AMD, despite that event, is still holding the 21 days. If not, we'll start watching down towards that 110 area again. ARM has been strong, trying to break out, couldn't hold. We had Micron with a nice move, still looks very nice up there. So you still have some strength in these semis, some of these looking very nice indeed. Energy. Energy Friday was, kind of weird. It hit the 200 day and didn't do very much. Chevron is best in breed. It's looking a little better. ExxonMobil up nicely, same thing. Oxy is one to watch. Why? Because Oxy is so big in U.S. shale, and that could be, if oil is going to start going up, they really make a lot of money. They do well. I would keep my eyes on Oxy. Next move would be through into the 200 day and this little gap area here, and to move itself back up to the 49 area. The banks on Friday, they were weaker, right? Banks were holding in, broke down all the way to the 100 day. JP Morgan, which tried to break out last week on the 21 day, this one can come down I would watch that 50-day down here if it decides to come down. First area to watch would be probably right about here, this 250, 55, 256 area. Goldman has been stronger still on the 8-day, so if the banks rally, this one should have go-to status. Biotech and pharma have been mostly out of play. Sometimes these can be safety names, J&J waking up, and they go to these names because they have dividends and they're strong. Lilly's had a nice move back up to the 200-day. It needs to clear that. Merck, you get the idea, so you keep an eye on some of these names as well as they're acting strong. Costco, Walmart, nothing going on here in retail right now. This is a little bit of a disaster with everything still going on with China. And then we'll come back to big tech and we'll talk about the names that have been stronger. And this is where you should always be focusing on. So like, NVIDIA and the semis, Palantir has been a strong name, put an all-time high in last week, almost put an all-time high, and on Friday just missed it and remains strong holding the 8-day. That has go-to status for me. Hood, another one, just closed on the 8-day, but right near that high there, the all-time high is still 85. Just looks like a great chart. Oracle had a beast of an earnings, huge 2-day move. I wouldn't be chasing up here, but what a move on this one. Extended, could use a couple days inside. Snow is still holding strong. It looks like it's digesting, maybe needs a little time for the next move. All right, so you have some strength in these cloud software names. Microsoft all-time high on Thursday, held the 8-day. This one still has go-to status. Amazon was trying to break out, couldn't, came down under the 8-day. This one I'm a little bit more careful of, but just kind of closing on it. Maybe the 21-day in play there. Google as well, still on the 8-day. You can see the strength in these names compared to the markets. Meta tried again back under the 8-day. This one's looking a little weaker here. Maybe it wants the 21-day. This one does like to find the 21-day there. Apple to me is just a mess. I just don't want anything to do with this. I don't know where it goes from here. My guess is it keeps kind of drifting lower as they're kind of just like a fish out of water at this point. Netflix holding in well, nice little consolidation pattern here. And the crypto names remain overall weak. Coin, not much going on, still holding this gap area. So at some point, if we get weakness, there could be a cute short on coin to go fill that gap area. But overall, it's holding okay. MSTR, which we would expect to be working, has been pretty quiet here lately, but holding well. And then let's go to Tesla. I always say Tesla last because I know everybody wants to talk about Tesla. Tesla here on this one, the chart is still somewhat constructive. And it's messy. So you have this big down move and then you have the big up and back up move. At this point, it appears that Musk and Elon have buried the hatchet for now and sort of kissed and made up. So if you're looking at Tesla now and you look at this chart, you could do two things. One, you could take it over here and you can come in and I can quickly show you a downtrend area that it needs to clear, right? Depending on how you want to draw it. I like to draw the most touches, right? That's one. We'll give that 2, 3, 4. This one went above it, right? So with that, or you can draw it right to the top of that candle, just have 2. I prefer that. But I like this one if we start getting back above here again. It held in well on Friday, doesn't seem to care. Remember, you're going to have a lot of negativity about this one, how the deliveries are going to be horrible. We know that. Don't treat them as an EV company anymore. This is about their robotics, their AI, and their robotaxi at this point. So again, eyes on that. If it cannot hold there, little gap, maybe it comes down to the 200-day, but overall held in well. So with that said, guys, I'm going to wish you all again a happy Father's Day. We have a weird week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday Fed, Thursday off, Friday OPEX. If you want to join me, I'll put a link in the description below. We'd love to have you in our room where we do this all day, and everybody have a great rest of your Sunday.